Well, hello and good evening, and a very warm welcome to all of you on what is unbelievably our 100th wine tasting that we've done live.
It's a little bit of a pinch me moment, and I'm sure there's some people here today who it's their first tasting, going, "What are these guys on about?" And there's going to be people who remember the days even before the pouches when we were running around with little glass bottles and fun stuff like that. So it's for anyone who's been on part of this journey, whether this is your first tasting, your 100th tasting like us, or somewhere in between. The fact that we've been able to share this many wines with this many people over the last 5 years is excuse my French, bloody brilliant.
It's marvelous. It's marvelous. And to celebrate, we have a very, very warm welcome to our guest of honor, Mr. Ray O'Connor, Master of Wine. And hello to you, Ray.
Hello, guys. Huge congratulations. Cogordigus is what we say in Ireland, but it's very, very impressive. Not many people, kept up the pace, stamina, and dedication after COVID. And you guys, you're born to present, I think. Well done.
Fawlty Towers only did 12 episodes.
Well, that's true.
But yeah, so today is we've got some great wines, but it's less of a theme. In the chat, let us know when your first tasting was. Things that you remember. Whether the good, the bad, the silly songs, the technical failures, all those things we've had. But before we do start, I'd just like to, rather than introduce Ray, just let Ray say hi, give a little introduction to himself. We see in the wine world, we talk about it a lot, Master of Wine, a Master Sommelier, MW. And Ray, if you could just give a high bit of background and kind of what it means to be an MW and where that kind of sits in the wine world and what that means to people who are watching along.
Okay, yeah, with pleasure. But I am a little bit conscious that this is definitely about you two tonight. So, and the bit I'll be, I hope, contributing to tonight will be about another perspective of how to taste, or basically places I've been in the world, and a bit of information. But just on a high level, a Master of Wine. Alex was telling me earlier that some of you have started the WSET, the Wine and Spirit Education Trust learning, and already have gone on to diploma level. So the Master of Wine is when you get past the highest level in WSET at the diploma level, then you can become a Master of Wine, or you can apply and then you study. And just as quickly as I can, there are two elements: tasting and theory. And after 2 years, you sit the main exam, and in the tasting, you taste 12 white wines blind, 12 red wines blind the next day, and then 12 mixed sparkling rosé, ports, all those mixed up. And you answer questions about where they might be from, how they were made, the wines, the commercial position, like where would you sell them? Is it for fine dining or is it for the supermarket, and so on? And that's the tasting. And then the theory bit is there's a paper with 3 essays to write on viticulture, so grape growing and soil and climate and so on. The second paper is on winemaking. So, how do you get color out of red whilst not losing too much flavor and so on? So that's winemaking piece. The third one is honestly everyone's least favorite, including mine, until I turned it on its head and decided that it was my most favorite. And that is called the production of wine. So that's like about screw caps and corks and bottling lines and all the geeky stuff. Extremely boring until you realize, wait a minute, this is actually the final little step of wine. And without this bit, we'd be tasting vinegar. So it's the bit that makes your wine stable and safe. And then business of wine, and then philosophy of wine. So that's it. And then you write a research paper. But that's the sum. So essentially, you're supposed to be spat out at the end, being able to be dropped into any environment in the wine world and be able to answer questions and know what the hell is going on. So that is what a Master of Wine is.
Oh, so that's why you're here tonight, Ray. Spat into any environment and answer the questions. I like that. But anyway, let's get wine number one in the glass, because that's what we're here for. For those who have been before, we know Slido. For those who are first time, you can go to Slido. You can either scan the QR code or go to towtc.co.uk/taste, and then you can pop your tasting notes in as we taste along. But we are starting tonight. Oh, by the way, anyone who's new, we've now got a handy little notch in our pouches, so you don't need your scissors anymore. We've got
just tear it open. How exciting!
The things we innovate to keep people happy. But anyway, we are heading to Provence, south of France, and for me, it's a region that's got a lot of press recently, the last 5-6 years, because it's very light, very on vogue, and is very well. I say very. A lot of it is very celebrity driven. That you see the French Riviera, you see Saint Tropez, you see your yachts, you see that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of branding and marketing that goes on down there. Your Whispering Angels, your Minutis,
Brad Pitts.
exactly those
Yeah.
kind of things. But I think there's so much more behind that. There's a lot of people out there that go, oh, it's light, it's pink, it is what it is, and every Provence is absolutely the same. It's just cold and refreshing.
And
it does
at
what
the
it
same
does.
point, they're still convinced that the Provence ones are an awful lot better than, say, a Languedoc rosé. And so it's quite interesting. And there's obviously all this talk about this unique landscape that you find in particularly in Provence, all of the aromatic vegetation that grows around the vineyards, the herbs. You see it, these incredible sort of bushy things, which is why, of course, it's the home of the perfume industry. And when you visit Provence, you see these incredible perfume factories and brands around. But we're not too far away from Saint Tropez tonight, are we?
We're not at all. But this is made by a cooperative, so it's you get a lot of areas, especially in France, that where kind of wine's gone down generations. One son's got a bit of land, another son's got a bit of land, and there's not enough to be commercially viable to make one wine. So a lot of the wineries will come together and be able to use one winery facility and one press and one set of tanks and one to be able to create something quite brilliant. But Ray, I'm going to dive in here because you still are the ambassador or have been for the last couple of years for the wines of Provence.
And Kathy went along to your session at the London Wine Fair, so bravo.
So just quickly, and I think I sat in on your tasting as well, was brilliant, and it was wines of Provence, are they all the same? Which I realised was no, but also for a region that has such kind of front and center in the showcase in the celebrity world and the wider world. Why does a region like that need an ambassador, and what is it looking for from someone like you to come and tell the story of Provence?
Okay. Well, on a high level, I guess is to explain that there's more than just something that is cool, wet, and pink. And that actually this place is about, Alex, you were sort of elaborating on there, it's about terroir. It's about, it's such a rugged and energetic and stunningly beautiful wine region with patchworks of vineyard plots. So it's not a sort of, it's not mechanically driven. It's not sort of large volume. It's actually quite sort of hokey pokey, small production. But that's in the vineyard, and so much biodiversity in the vineyard, so much wildlife, birds, trees, and all of that feeds into the biodiversity of the vineyard. So it's probably the most organic driven wine region in France that I know. And thereafter in the winery, the savoir-faire, as they say in French, the know-how, when we're tasting this wine that everyone has in their glass, the fact that it goes into your mouth and slides across the palate and down the back, and you just go, that was lovely. But you don't spend a lot of time going, oh, the acidity is a bit here and the tannin is a bit there. That thing is just perfect. It's just landed, and that sort of subtle perfection, that didn't happen just like that. It's this sort of, I guess, the swan with the legs flapping, the expertise that goes behind this glass we don't see, and on top it's just perfect. And so that is where, and I think that's the kind of things they like to communicate, they like me to speak about. So that's Provence. It shows like it's all yachts and swimming pools, but actually behind it, it's environmental and it's total expertise wine region.
I remember one of the very first Provence rosés we did, they went massive on their biodiversity in the vineyards. They were doing huge amounts of studying. They counted, I think they had over 100 different types of butterfly that they had located in their vineyards. And of course, you need that to drive the growth of all of the plants around it. And then you get these essential oils floating up into the air that form that mysterious mist of perfumes that land on the skins of the grapes, go into the press, and guess what? They go into the wine.
No, and I agree, and I think sometimes the simple wines do get overlooked, as it's quite simple and it's fresh. But these wines can be really, really hard to make. If you've got bad fruit, you can hide it behind some oak or some lees or a bit of barrel aging. This has got nowhere to run if it's not good. It has to be precise and fresh and delightful, because if it's not, it's just not going to be good. There's no safety net for a
No.
Provence rosé like this, is there?
A good point. That's it, Jamie. That this is it, guts and all. It's no makeup. Yeah.
We say it's simple, but look at the what we've got is a very dominant set of red fruit flavors, a little bit of those kind of orchard fruit things coming in as well. But actually, what's then happening is the subtlety, like you said, the sheer number of different flavor compounds that there are from this combination of, and we're dealing with some quite big grapes here, aren't we? Where this one is Grenache and Sanso.
Yeah,
so
it's about 70% Grenache and about 30% Sanso.
you quite often see a bit of Syrah in the mix there as well. But let's quickly talk about the C word, shall we? Color, not Sanso.
There was I was at Cab, was it Counoir?
You have no idea.
What is the C word?
Everyone goes, oh, that's a beautiful color, don't they? And when you're making a wine from grapes, which are generally making like big, strong Syrah style wines from the Rhone, you're only just along to the along the coast from the Rhone region. You're really not that far. You're high up into the mountains from a lot of these vineyards. It's quite a big step when you go up to some of those towns which look down over the Côte d'Azur. It's quite dramatic, but how do we get to that really light color and get it so precise and so perfect, especially when you then have to try to bottle it? And when you're adding things like sulfites to preserve the wine, it changes the color, doesn't it? It's one of the things that I remember from my very first winemaking practical was that we bottled for fermentation a must that was a beautiful rosé color, stuck in some sulfur to make sure we killed off any of the kind of the bad like microbial things that were going to do some work to it, added our selected yeast that we thought was going to strain it, and suddenly the addition of the sulfur bleached all of the color out of it. It's not a very, it's a quite a subtle and difficult thing to master. It's easy to overlook it. And I think the other thing is that what we heard from winemakers in other regions is that when they try to force the wine, so the color comes from the skins. The color always comes, for the point of this, the color comes from the skins. And you can try to sort of there are various different methods of making rosé. I think I've got a little sign here, a little infographic here borrowed from the Napa Wine Academy, which is showing you basically you can either direct press it and just rely on the color that comes out when you squeeze those grapes, or you leave it in maceration, contact with the skin, either a cold maceration where it's just kind of steeping it in, between the juice and the skins, or you actually start the fermentation going for a short while and then take off the juice and do that, and that's that kind of saignée method. But when you try to force some of those really dark-skinned grapes to make a light-colored rosé, we've heard that the results are often incredibly disappointing. And so you've got to have this right combination of things. And I think that proximity to the Mediterranean and the little bit of altitude mean that Provence is just a bit more protected and can do these kind of nice ones in the way that perhaps if you're making in Spain, it's a bit harder to do. And you need to give it a bit more skin contact.
Very generalization, span a little flatter, a little warmer, thicker skins, different grapes, and you get the color. And my last point on rosé before we move on to the reason was I was talking to a Slovakian winemaker last year via an importer, and so they make a rosé out of Cabernet Sauvignon, but it can come along with a Pantone chart, and they'll ask you what color would you like your rosé to be, and you can pick the shade of pink, and they'll color match it for you.
No.
So it's the right color for your market. If the color is potentially, and I've not tried the wine, I was just talking in theory about it.
That's fine.
But I'm guessing if you're more into the color than actually what the wine is, you're able to color match your wine out of Cabernet Sauvignon.
We have the ever wonderful Finn Bar is suggesting that a bit of a barbecue chicken with a thyme and avocado salad could be a nice accompaniment to this one. I think that sounds as usual an excellent choice. I mean, it goes well with so many things. That's the wonderful thing about rosé. It can go even onto something like pork chops
and rosé, and I said it was my last thing about rosé. I've got one last thing about rosé. It's not just for the summer. You can drink rosé year round. It's a great food wine. It's got beautiful acidity. I tell you, my American background, rosé was my wine for Thanksgiving because you've got all these big, heavy foods, fatty.
Yeah.
The rosé, same as at Christmas, you can have a bottle of Chateauneuf to pop on the table, but that's 14%. You want to go to sleep. You can have a nice rosé. It's beautiful. It's nice. It's refreshing. You can have a couple of glasses. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant food wine.
As we're moving on to wine number 2, there's an awful lot of people here who are saying that they had young children back in those early COVID lockdown days.
Who didn't?
Both Jamie and I had 1-year-old children at the time, and we decided that the best way of dealing with that sort of stress was to then do a startup, which perhaps wasn't the most sensible thing in the world. But yes, I will move the tasting notes on, but let's just have a look. Watermelon, rose petals, quince, green apples, strawberries, rosy apples, the sweets. I like that, and even through to like things like Eton mess, clementines. But yet with the herbs that are coming from that garrigue, the wildflowers that sit around the vineyards. But now we're going on to Jamie's favourite wine. But this was one of the first ones that you picked as well, Ray, wasn't it? You said, I wanted Riesling, I wanted Cabernet, and then we were like going through a few different options, and Gunderloch came out, which
absolutely.
Yeah.
Gunderloch So we're in the Rhine-Hessen, so we're right on the river. And Gunderloch, I was lucky enough to visit a couple of years ago on a Masters of Riesling tour because. That's my style. That's my style. So they're right on the river. You can see up in the vineyards. You can see the Rhine River coming through, and it's not the steepest of slopes. It's not like the Mosel where you're like going like 90 degrees. It's still steep, but it's not.
In fact, I've got a photo of it.
Oh, well done.
Here we are. That is what it looks like. So
absolutely. So it's not that German steep slate. You're gonna, if you tumble at the top, you're gonna be at the bottom. But Gunderloch, 126 years of history. They're 6th generation family owned now, and they make brilliant Riesling. They make a little bit of Pinot Noir. They make some good rosé. But Riesling is absolutely what this region is famous for. And this is a cabinet style. So without boring people for hours and a half with predicate systems and Qualitas wine and all that kind of stuff, you've got these levels.
Send you asleep at this part.
Yes, you've got these levels of German Riesling that are based on potential sweetness. Yeah. So there is some overlap between Cabernet and Auslese, Spätlese, that kind of stuff. But this is on the drier side of the pyramid. But the really important thing to look at is it's almost like a bit of a maths problem, because Cabernet is that kind of potential sweetness. But if it's lower alcohol, that means that less sugar has turned into alcohol, so therefore it will be slightly sweeter. So if you've got 2 Cabernets side by side and one is 12% and one is 8.5%, your good guess is the 8.5% one is going to be a little bit sweeter. So that's a little clue to kind of, when you're trying to go through the minefield of German wine and wine law and the next thing they add in. So this is very slightly off dry. And we've got to make sure we don't confuse off dry with sweets. When I talk about sweet wine, we're talking about dessert wines. We're talking 50, 60 plus grams of residual sugar. This is a lot lower than that. Have I got the exact number here? He says, nice. We're about 20. So we're about 20 grams of residual sugar. So it's not mind-blowingly high. You need to be about 6-7 grams to be able to taste anything in there at all. Mm-hmm. A Brut champagne, for example, is about 6 grams of residual sugar. But it just brings the fruit out. It brings the richness out. And you've got this mind-blowing acidity that just every time you go back, it feels like you're tasting it again for the first time.
Yeah, and it's on this. You mentioned the classic slate of a lot of these German. This actually has a basis of the soil of a lot of the red slate. So they call it the Roter Hang. And I've probably pronounced that terribly. Someone's going to tell me, but it's a very different wine. We had one of their other wines last night in another competition that we were doing, and it's a vastly different beast from the same grape, from the same winemaker, Johannes Hasselbach. He also makes great potatoes as well.
Yeah, that was not the best joke of the day. But you try hard.
I enjoyed it anyway, that's fine. But it's still got an incredibly mineral style to it. But it's very floral, this one, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and because once again, I'm going back. We did a tasting in the city. So if you ever need an office tasting, we'll come to you because we can do that as well now. But this sits at 9.5%, so therefore it's a little bit richer, a little bit more fruit because it's got that sweet. The one we had last night was 12%, and that really kind of showcases the difference. But we're seeing what's interesting here. We look at these tasting notes. We've got honey, we've got apricot, we've got peach. That is a great tasting note. My Lord, wine too is fantastic, and that is sometimes all you need. But I think we've got to be interested when we look at honey because we think, oh, honey is sweet, so therefore it is a sweet wine. It's not. It's got honey flavors. Sweet is a fact or not. There's either sugar or there's not. And sometimes we do get these wines that are very, very fruity with no sugar in at all. And we're just got to be careful that we don't confuse that fruitiness with sweetness.
That is fair. That is fair. And I think it's particularly important when you're pairing with food that is sweet, because if you don't have that sweetness in your wine to match the kind of level, particularly with a dessert, it's it can get quite overpowered, can't it?
And this is, people go, what would be my desert island wine if you could only have one grape ever again? And it sounds very sommy, that's what it's say. But it would be Riesling, because you can go from absolutely bone dry, so much acidic that it takes the enamel off your teeth, to the other end where there's so much sweetness that the sugar rots your teeth out. True. And everywhere in between. And there's so many styles, whether you've got the German style like this that is quite fruity, you've got the Alsatian style that's kind of a little bit richer, a little bit waxy, a little bit heavier. You can go to Australia, the Clare Valley, where it's just all mineral, and it's such a cool, flexible grape that does so many, many different things.
So Magda is bringing up sparkling Riesling. I think it might be time to talk about Sekt. Which is, of course, the German traditional method sparkling wine, which it can be made from Riesling, and often is. I like it. I do. I don't know if it's my favourite way of enjoying Riesling, but I think it's a really delicious drink.
I think there's better grapes out there for making sparkling. My humble opinion. There's some decent stuff, but when you do it and then you're adding a dosage and you're messing around with the sugar, it's not me.
You're a purist.
I'm just saying, if there's a sparkling, there's other grapes I would prefer my sparkling to be made out of rather than.
That's fair.
I'm not that obsessed with Riesling that I must have
Riesling
for breakfast, Riesling for lunch, Riesling for dinner, Riesling in my sparkling.
Okay.
But there are some good ones. I've not had hundreds of them. So if someone's got a recommendation of something I should drink, chuck it in the chat and I will find it and give it a go.
I'll tell you who I've had some really good ones from, and I'm not paid to say this. There's an online retailer called the Wine Barn who specialize in German wines, and they're really good. They have a fantastic range. So if you are really interested in German wines, you want to try to have a few different Sekts, you go down to the Wine Barn on their website, and they've got some great stuff. Why am I sending people to other retailers? Because you want to come to us for advice. Ray, what do you think about? What do you like about Riesling?
Oh, I think Jamie's covered a lot of it. To be honest, it's just and especially this particular wine, Gunderloch, and I was looking to visit there as well. And I practiced a German speech, which miraculously pulled off, just to say thank you at the end of a visit. There was a big group of us. But the thing with the amount of sugar, as you say, Jamie, 20 grams of residual sugar, which it's the amount of acidity in here which balances it, so it doesn't feel saccharine, it doesn't feel sweetness or gloopy. It just feels delicious, which is what all the comments have said. It's delightful and it's perfect. So yeah, I too would say that Riesling is probably the greatest white grape of all, although I'm a sucker for expensive white Burgundy that I can't afford. But Riesling, it just lives forever, and then it transforms itself. A dry Riesling or an off-dry Riesling like this, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15, and it's just going new flavors all along the way. And the acidity is like a pulse. It's a lifeline that keeps it aging longer and longer, unlike some other white grape varieties. So I am a huge fan. I love it. And I could honestly, drink. I'd call that breakfast wine. It's sort of, it's the one, if you were on holiday or if you were having a sort of a, letting your hair down weekend, that's the one you'd start the session with. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because it sits in two things, and we're now condoning breakfast wine, but not only is it a little bit lighter in alcohol, which is a good thing for it. It has got that acidity weight, and for me, it's kind of that I'm going to sound really pretentious here. It's that ski holiday wine. When you wake up, you don't feel 100% from the night before after a little bit après ski, and you go, I'll have a little sip. It wakes you right up, that acidity. You're ready to go again onto the slopes.
Drink responsibly, I think, is what
Drink
you have to add.
responsibly. Well, Jamie spent half the day in a meeting with the Association of Wine Educators, who are very, very important. They want to make sure that we all understand we should be drinking responsibly, but having 100 milliliters, especially split between two of you, for those is a great way to drink responsibly. So anyway, they've got out of the way. Let's move on. The last look at these tasting notes. So it's got a few more. Again, breakfast and glass, but tinned peaches, white flowers. It does, you know, there's an interesting line there. Fizzy. It does. It's almost
acidity, acidity running off the tongue gives that little bit of effervescence, that little bit of tingliness, which is brilliant. Yeah, I think it's great.
Very cool wine. Very cool wine indeed. And we have a nice recommendation on the sparkling Andreas Bender Riesling Brut. That sounds good.
Yeah, that's a good producer, Bender.
Yeah. We should have to have a look at that.
Oh my word!
We're gonna.
Well, you're in good company here, everybody. So,
so next month's tasting, should we do at 8 a.m. rather than 8 p.m.? It seems here. This was everyone get up.
Breakfast wine tasting.
We'll do the tasting before the school run. My word, what is going on with people?
Excellent. Well, we can do it across different.
All you people in the chat, Ray O'Connor, Marshall Wine, is going to be judging you in your breakfast wines. I can tell you, he won't be coming back for a morning tasting. Right, should we move on to wine 3? Yes.
Yeah. Yes. No, I'm looking forward to this because I have not tried this one, and I've not actually tried one of Susanna's wines, even though she was voted, I believe, the #1 Argentinian winemaker a couple of years back by a very reputable. I can't remember who did it, but she's very highly regarded, isn't she?
She is one of the. So an absolute trailblazer in Argentinian wine, full stop. An absolute trailblazer for female winemakers, and just makes brilliant wine. You know, there's great winemakers out there that go, yeah, that's brilliant. Some there. I don't think I've ever had a bad Balbo wine. They are really well built. There's every wine she makes, there seems to be a reason behind that wine. It's not just there for the sake of it being there. And this wine we've put in just to be a little bit different. We've done some Torrontés before, you know, Argentina's white grape that has this great aromatics, this floraliness. It can be a little bit divisive because some people, you know, think it tastes soapy because it's got the same makeup as coriander. So you've got that kind of, some people, I don't get it, it's soapy. Some people don't taste that. It's an enzyme that you can pick up on. But the thing with this is we've gone to do a little bit of geekiness, because usually Torrontés is this very bright, floral, light white wine. And this one is done as a barrel fermented style.
Crikey, so, 100% new French oak. Wow.
Absolutely. But it doesn't, it still tastes like Torrontés.
Yeah. You've got that.
You would
really
think 100% new oak barrel fermented Toronto, it'd almost go Chardonnay-y. But I think it's brilliant. You wouldn't
mistake that, would you? Goodness me. The Queen of Torrontés, Kathy says, and Kathy makes wine in Argentina, so has been to the winery several times, so knows what she's saying. No, I have never had an oaked Torrontés before. I kind of found it a bit one-dimensional. I haven't even drunk this one, just on the smell. It's really intriguing, isn't it? Gosh, changes the fruit profile.
Also, what's interesting with this one, so we're in the Uco Valley here, and the Uco Valley is really kind of famous for its Malbecs and its reds. And usually, when you're looking at Torrontés, a lot of it is made a little bit further north in Salta. But where we are in the Uco Valley, you're a little bit higher. You've got it's a little bit warmer, but you've still got the altitude there. You go up to Salta, you're probably 1,600 meters in some places. Uco Valley is not quite as high. But yeah, so you're getting a little bit more sunshine hours, a little bit more richness, which I think it probably needs to be able to cope with the oak and that barrel ferment. So as the winemaker, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Difference between barrel aging and barrel fermenting is what? Because that sounds just like barrels.
Oh gosh, yeah. Thank you for putting me on the spot. No, not like a master of wine or anything.
If you need to ask for help, you can we can do a phone a friend thing here if you need it.
Do a phone a friend. No, well, obviously the fermentation process is a really complex process. There is you look in a wine textbook, and at a very simple level, it's sugar, you know, basically if effectively turns into alcohol and carbon dioxide. But it is so much more complex than that, and there are all of these kind of intermediate chemicals that go on, and they are hugely affected by what other chemicals are around. If you put it into something as complex as a new oak barrel, all of these precursors that have come from the woods can go in and really change it. You get a different effect to aging it in a barrel, where it's all more like sort of soaking it and steeping. You're getting the subtle effect of the little bit of micro oxygen that comes through the barrel. I always find that a barrel ferment has a quite strong distinctive reaction to the wine that maybe is more dramatic than putting it for 6 months in it. But it's actually one of those wonderful questions where I've not got a nice consistent answer out of any winemaker about where they see the different things, and that's the lovely thing about wine, isn't it? Ray, what here is my phone a friend point now.
Yeah, no, Alex, I concur. You summed it up. Not too much to add. I guess barrel fermentation, it is more integrated. So, like you said, the lactose, the characters from the wood is part of it. It all just sort of intertwines. Whereas that's barrel fermentation. Then barrel maturation is you make the white wine or red wine, but you make the white wine in a stainless steel neutral tank, and then you plonk it into wood. So it's wine plus wood rather than this sort of already married thing. So that's it. It's about the sort of how part of the wine it is, that's all.
That's a much more eloquent way of saying
it. I feel the barrel fermentation for me is kind of like it's building the wine, it's the guts of it.
Yeah.
And then the barrel aging is almost just putting a coat around it. You know what I mean?
I think one other practical thing that I would say is, obviously, if you're barrel fermenting, it is an incredibly difficult thing to manage in a winery. There's not a few things that go into that. One of them is temperature control. Like if you're doing a big jacketed 10,000 litre tank where you're doing the fermentation, it has got a jacket of coolant that makes sure that temperature is exactly the right level for that. If you're doing the same thing with a 300 bottle, 225 litre wooden barrel, you're going to have to put this sort of plate in and feed these pipes down to bring the glycol mixture down into this cooling plate to do it. And not many people really do that. It's quite hard work. So and of course there's just so much more possibility for error, because if you've only got 300 bottles coming out of each barrel, then that's a lot of barrels that you need to be managing ferments of, and it is really hard to scale that up.
And especially if you're then going to reblend, so you don't have huge amounts of barrel and bottle deviation. But I just want to say, we talk about wines and complexity, and we can say complexity, but what we can do, as we do everything, you look at the tasting notes, and that shows we're a complex wine. The amount of notes, the amount of points, the amount of different flavors and profile that's on there just showcases what a cool, fun, and interesting wine this is.
There's a lot of tasting notes there. Foam bananas, that's possibly my new favorite tasting note that I've seen in a long time. That is excellent.
I'll borrow that if I may. That's excellent.
Please. Susanna was the first female winemaker, and she started winemaking in Salta, but she's now doing the Torrentes up in Neuco Valley. Love it. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Lots of lovely comments about this one. So complex and interesting. And it does seem to evolve quite nicely in the glass, which I suppose you'd expect for something with so much complexity.
I love the notes down the side. People going, I like Torrentes, but never had a oak one, never had a barrel fermented one. It's great just to be able to get these wines into a pouch and out to people, so people go, you know what, I've given that a go now, and if I love it, I get it, and if I don't love it, we've learned I don't love it as well. But it seems the majority of people seem to be loving it.
I don't normally love Torrentes, but I actually really like this one. I think that the comment there about lychee as well, that comes through so strongly to me. I've not had that from Torrentes before, so that's a really fun tasting note. They do weekly batonnage in this as well. For those who've been with us before, but for those who haven't, that's stirring up all of the yeast cells that were in the wine to mix it all in and to kind of develop these slightly toasty, brioche, biscuity flavors.
Bit more texture, bit more richness. And that's an interesting thing. And obviously this is barrel fermented and barrel aged,
Hmm.
but you know, you can get those, sometimes you can get those, what people think are an oaky flavor from
Yeah.
just batonnage, because you get that yeasty brioche kind of thing. And that's
Yeah.
when you get deeper into tasting, you got people go, yeah, that tastes really oaky. Never seen an oak barrel. And you've got that opportunity to do different things. And I just think there's a lot of technique going on here, but some winemakers use technique for the sake of using technique, so they can go, oh, I've done this and this and this and this and this, which doesn't achieve anything. There just seems to be a reason for everything that happens in this bottle of wine, and I think it's brilliant.
What would you have to eat with this?
Oh,
Finn, start your brain cells.
Finn knows. Finn's got a list of 8 different things to go with. It's tough because it's light that you think, you know, the freshness goes seafood. You know, if you had something like a tuna steak with like an olive tapenade kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, swordfish, those kind of meatier fish kind of dishes would go really well. This, if you just, you know, anything that you pair Chardonnay with, like a roast chicken dinner or something like that, I think would be great. It's got that, but it's not overpowering. It's really well balanced.
But it's got that kind of aromatic nature that would go really nicely with some Thai food, or you know, a lot of the Asian spicier foods would be great. But we've actually got here is going well with pork chop with sage. So that covers a lot of bases.
The interesting thing is the first 3 wines of the tasting day have all been really versatile food wines.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things they could go with. They're very drinkable, but you know, and I hate the tasting note, because it's a get out jail free card. Go, oh, it drinks really well by itself, but go really well with a lot of food as well. That's the wine equivalent of I work well in groups, but can do a task by myself as well on a CV. So we've got to kind of get away from that.
Excellent, very good, Jamie.
While you're just to allow people to catch up, I just thought it would be quite fun to show a little slideshow at this point.
Just before you do that,
oh yeah, okay.
Do you want to move the Slido on?
Oh yeah, okay.
Finish wine 3, get wine 4 in the glass. Alex, basically, because it's Beaujolais, he's going to ignore the Beaujolais and give you a history lesson about the online wine tasting club. So myself, Ray, and everyone at home can start enjoying Beaujolais, and Alex is going to pretend it didn't happen.
Okay. So 100 tastings. We actually did our very, very first online wine tasting pretty well. We'd planned our first online wine tasting before there was any talk of lockdowns or anything like that. And but before that, before anything to do with online wine tasting, that was never our plan. We were planning on making a little wine bar, wine shop, event space, and I was going to come along and make a couple of barrels of something fun once a year. And so that was the initial plan. So we found this rather tatty. Ray, do you remember seeing this building in pretty much this
state?
Right in the middle of Tring, about 30 seconds walk from Jamie's house. And it was a proper state, because it used to be used as a double glazing sales room / area where they did some sort of small modifications and things. So we converted this, and we got a license for it to become officially, at the time, the UK's smallest licensed commercial winery. And so we had a bonded area, we were all ready, we had our press, we had our Crush de Simmer, and it was all going swimmingly. We booked in tastings, we decorated it, and so come February, I think it was February the 9th, we opened our doors to a sold-out weekend with 5 different parties over the course of that weekend, where we just had such a wonderful time, wasn't it? And it was all looking so immensely positive.
It was madness. We put a little thing on Facebook going, we might open a winery and wine shop, anyone interested? And it just blew up. And we just thought we might have some mates come down the first weekend. We had to make it a ticketed event to you can come for 2 hours, then you've got to go and come back. But that's where we were.
But yeah, it was great. So we were all set up. We were going to be doing weekly wine tastings, of course. That's a great way to get people in the door. And then we were going to be doing sort of events where people could come and taste the difference between a Malvasia that had been given batonnage, had been left on the lees and given batonnage, and one where we'd racked it off very carefully away so that you could take that juice. And it was just all going to be about, let's do some really fun, simple little experiments to show people these things in isolation.
We should have gone with the brand, the in-person wine tasting club.
The in-person wine tasting club. That's nice. I like it. But anyway, of course, along came our first big sort of in-house tastings. Again, this was the one with Karim Mussi joining us via videos from Argentina, and Lee from Condor helpfully doing it.
Which, to be
This
fair,
was
was
the
a little
March the
bit of
12th.
this is a little bit of the inspiration
It
of
was,
we
yeah.
could do it online, because we didn't need the winemaker in the room. Karim was meant to be in the room with us,
Yeah.
but he cancelled his plans due to lockdowns and COVID's happening, and so we did
And
it.
instead, we got Lee Isaacs, who just turned up and basically helped us just for fun. And it was absolutely rammed. And this was right about the time where people started getting locked in their skyscrapers in China. And so we were starting to get a little bit nervous about this. And this definitely this evening made us go, oh, hold on. So we sat down in my kitchen and said, look, the Italy are now in isolation. This is probably going to hit us at some point soon. So we said, if you can't come to the winery, we don't feel it's very safe or sensible to be hosting an event where you're drinking and spitting in incredibly close proximity with other people. Let's close the in-person part of our wine shop, and we will see if we can bring the wine to you. So we put up the date of our very first wine tasting, which I think we'd got down as April the 1st at the time. We just assumed it was going to be a lockdown.
Yeah,
we didn't know for sure. You were still hoping that you might get across to
Provine
in Germany, but that didn't happen. And then, of course, on March the 24th, that bloke happened, and told us that we were going to be locked in our house for a couple of weeks.
Circuit breaker.
So obviously, we were faced with lots of people who wanted their money back for the wine tastings, and instead, we bought an awful lot of very small bottles and sat there with a canister of gas, putting inert gas into them, filling them with wine, putting a crown cap on, all by hand. You got blisters from doing this. What time were you doing this until in the morning?
4 o'clock in the morning, so it was fresh for the tasting the following night.
And the very next day, we'd drop it around to people's houses and we'd go back around and we'd collect them. It was a labour of love. We didn't make any money from doing it, but it at least meant we didn't lose money. So meantime, Idiot here had a packet of spices delivered through his letterbox and saw that the postage cost was £1.20 at the time as a second-class letter. Like, oh, wonder if we could do the same for wine. And so we started mocking things up and doing lots and lots of complicated maths as to exactly what size of a pouch you might need. What we were initially thinking of kind of Tetra Pak type cartons, but nothing worked. Nobody knew about wine. The machinery guys didn't know about wine. Nothing seemed to work at all. And then we very quickly, by the 15th of April, again, still in that very first lockdown, we got our first pack designs. We'd mocked up the pouches with a 150ml at the time to see what we could do before we knew about weights and measures. And the very first ever cartons were made from Shreddies boxes. So you can actually just see on the right there, I literally cut these out by hand in my kitchen and made Shreddies boxes into cartons just to check that it all worked right and everything. We got our first set of films in, and then we were sat waiting for a machine called Jennifer, which came from China. We had no idea when it was going to turn up, if it was going to turn up, if we'd been conned. And finally it showed up.
And we'd been conned.
It was completely unfit for purpose. So we had to go off and find another UK-made machine. But for those of you who remember Caroline, the three of us were sat there folding all of these
hand
boxes
gluing
by hand. Have you got one of them there? Yes, he has. These are very first wine tasting boxes here still. And a funny little story about these is that we designed it to be the perfect large letter size, but this little tiny paper tab which sticks through was enough to tip it over into being a parcel. So that probably cost us about £20,000 in the first few months of doing it. But we persevered. We took them down to the post office, and that was 50 bottles of wine in that tiny space. And I remember the look of the guy in the post office. It wasn't Tring.
It was Ivanhoe, wasn't it? Because it was the only one that was open in the afternoon.
What
is this?
I said, it's wine. He goes, what do you mean it's wine? And so we stuck that up there. And actually, that was the picture I posted on Twitter to Jancis Robinson. Jancis Robinson then wrote an article about us. Somebody called Ray O'Connor, Master of Wine, read an article about us and then phoned me up on my mobile phone the very next day. So that was how quickly things moved. And before you know it, there we are in a
slightly larger warehouse.
And of course, we were a lot less grey in those days than we are now. But that was our very first ever tasting in September 2020. And then it just scaled up to the point where we were shipping out first vast bags full of wine, and then into trolleys, Royal Mail trolleys of stuff. And now I'm very happy to say that we have passed the milestone of having manufactured 1.5 million.
He's giving away the quiz
glasses of
answers.
wine.
He's giving away the quiz answers. My
Sorry.
word.
They'll probably forget it. They won't be listening. They're probably
They're
drinking
drinking
wine 6 now.
Yeah, they're probably on wine 6. Yeah.
Anyway, that is a little bit of a sort of a blast from the past of where we were, how we came to be doing this stupid thing. And thank you. It wouldn't have been anything without all of your support. So I'm going to have a quick look through the comments and let's have. Do I get any of the wine?
Well, you said you didn't want any. You want some? You
Oh,
can have
go
some.
on.
There you go. Have some Beaujolais.
That's fine. That's fine. That's
All
fine.
right. So,
Oh God.
so we are. Go back. So we are Louis Tête, and we are in Beaujolais, which is on the France, with the very south tip of Burgundy. Are we allowed to call it Burgundy? So
No.
Alex says so. It's now technically part of Burgundy, but it's its own thing. It sits the very, very southern tip, and the grape there is called Gamay. So the reds it's red wine made with Gamay. You do get some Beaujolais Blanc as well, but it's quite rare. What's interesting about Beaujolais is it gets a little.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you because that's possibly one of the best things. The newborn that caused us to join the online wine tasting club is finishing reception, and his class was called Badger.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant.
Oh my word! Goodness.
So
Wow.
yeah, so I think Beaujolais gets a little bit of a bad name, right? I remember my first ever restaurant job. It was a French bistro in the village where my mum and dad lived, and they did the Beaujolais run every year. And there might be some people on here that remember the Beaujolais run, and there might be some people who still do it.
Yeah.
And it used to be because Beaujolais Nouveau was the first release of wine for the new vintage, and it got released from the chateau, and people would go down there by planes, trains, and automobiles and try and be the first people back with a case of the new vintage of Beaujolais. But this Nouveau wine was designed to be very young, very simple, and there was no aging or anything. It was the first thing to do. And I think Beaujolais through that got a little bit of a bad name for being a bit cheap and cheerful, a bit banana-y, a bit bubblegummy, not of particularly great quality. And people don't like Beaujolais Esterive. But there's also the village level, and then there's also the cru level. And I think it's really important to understand that there are, and I think in a lot of wine regions, we have a generic statement and we go, oh, I don't, Australian Shiraz, it's all the same. It's got a kangaroo on the label. But we know there's different tiers. We go, oh, Burgundy, you can have, AOC Burgundy, you can then have village level, Premier Cru, Grand Cru.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important that we don't tar a grape or a wine region or a place with the same brush for the entire thing. So
I'd like to go the opposite way because I would quote the great Duke of Burgundy, Philip. He called Gamay a very bad and very disloyal grape whose bitter wine made people ill and who had ruined Burgundy's reputation for fine wine. So he declared war on the grape of Gamay and declared that this shall not be a Burgundy wine at all. But times have changed. There are a few centuries on. So I don't know. What are we thinking? Are we enjoying this one?
So these guys have been the owners of the land and made the wine since early 1800s. So they've got centuries of time. You winced on that, didn't you? It's
No.
But I think the interesting thing about Beaujolais, a lot of it goes through this process called carbonic maceration, which is a different winemaking technique to most wines that we see. You want to talk about carbonic maceration?
Okay, no, I'm actually going to say. So I like a little bit of
whole bunch.
A little bit of whole bunch. Yeah, So I like complexity in wine. I like having a range of different flavors. I think if you were to just take one technique and do that one thing, I think why do people do carbonic maceration? Well, firstly, I suppose you do carbonic maceration by putting the grapes whole bunch into the fermenter and then gassing it full of carbon dioxide. So you're denying the oxygen to the grapes and to the yeast that are there. And of course, all of the must, all the juice is kept trapped inside the skins of the grapes. So you get this kind of enzymatic process which breaks down the grapes and starts working on them, which is very different to a conventional fermentation. And that leads to flavors of bubble gum and kirsch, and cherry,
Foam bananas.
foam bananas probably.
It's everywhere.
And I think in a tiny amount of moderation, I think that's a lovely flavor. I think on those ones, one of the reasons they do it is as I understand it, and please feel free to correct me, those who know more about it, it's a very good way of extracting an awful lot in quite a short period of time from the grapes. For example, if you're trying to make the first wine, red wine, that comes out of that vintage and is all released on the same day, and you can get it to market quickly. So I think, for me, I had a couple of bad experiences with Beaujolais Nouveau when I was young, let's put it that way. And that sort of, in the same way that tequila coloured a few people's sort of, or Jägermeister coloured a few people's relationship with drinks, it hurt mine. So perhaps ignore me. But Ray, do you like wines that are made with 100% carbonic, or how do you kind of control their sort of desire to go towards that really confected sort of bubblegummy sort of artificial style of wine, which I find that a lot of the Beaujolais can be?
I think, well, first thing I should declare is when I'm asked, when I do presentations, tastings and things like that, and people then afterwards, when you're having a beer or a glass, they say, what's your favorite wine region, or what's your favorite wine? And my answer is Beaujolais.
And that's why you chose it.
Of all the red wines in the world, Beaujolais is my favorite red wine. And the answer is, or the reason is, but the reason is because it's not up, it's very easygoing. It's just so comfort. It's like a slice of pizza. It is pizza wine itself, and it's just, kick your shoes off and be in your pajamas kind of feeling. Like, it just makes you feel at ease, rather than, some wines they're complex, but they sort of challenge you some way. So, but that's the beginning. The next piece is to absolutely fundamentally separate everything you just said, Alex, which is the carbonic maceration to make simple and fruity, juicy wines, like we're tasting. This is somewhere in that zone, to the, as Jamie touched on, the 9 crews, the 9 villages that have been, people will recognize the name Fleury, and everyone will recognize the name Fleury. So that's a village that tastes different. It's one of 9, and it tastes different to Morgon or Chenas. And actually, the difference between Fleury, which is a bit like this in style, I can't remember what we're doing. We're doing Brudy, are we now? Yeah.
Brudy, yeah.
And Brudy, but to Chenas, because of the soil, without going too boring, but the different soil type, Chenas is like structured and powerful. It's the same grape, but it grows up the road, probably on a different soil, and it is completely different. So whilst it's not Pinot Noir, and I do love Pinot Noir up the road, I just think Gamay from Beaujolais, it's just the one that it's the mate you want to have a pint with, rather than keeping up appearances with everything else. It's just like, so what's the crap? And it's just down to earth, straight up, and you know where you stand with it. And that's why it's my friend for life. Drink responsibly. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you. No, that's a very good response. And I think perhaps it's up to some of us who've had maybe more of an experience with that cheap, nouveau, young, let's just get it to market as fast as we can style of wine, to go and explore some of those different crews, the different villages, and the different soil types that lead to very different flavors. For me, I suppose it's almost a bit of like a People's Front of Judea versus the People's Judean Front kind of thing, because between a Burgundy, a light Pinot Noir that's made with 60% carbonic maceration or whole bunch in it, and a cru Beaujolais that's made from Gamay in a pretty similar technique, there's an awful lot of similarities there, aren't there? And it's almost like when you get 2 things that are very close to each other, like the Sunnis and the Shiites getting angry with each other. Like, we believe 99% of the same thing, but we're going to argue bitterly over that remaining little bit. And yeah, I don't know. I will try. And this is my pledge. I will try to be more open-minded towards Beaujolais. This is okay. It's okay. Well, we've got some other. Let's have a look at a few other people's comments. So Finn is saying Gamay is not normally his grape choice. This one's decent, but you've had. I don't think I've tried the Back Elder Gamay, have I?
Oh,
There's Gamay Noir, isn't it? Or
Gamay Noir, the Whistler Park, yeah.
I love it, you know.
Yeah, they make good wine, but I think, you know, I think as Ray alluded to, when you're grabbing the bottle of Beaujolais, you've got to have a look and make sure you've got one of those village names on it, and it doesn't say Nouveau, because it's absolute chalk and cheese from a very simple bubblegummy wine to a properly. I say a properly made one. That's a horrible thing to say about it, but you know, there's a vast difference, and one style is so different from the other style. You won't say I like one and both of them the same. So I think it's important to know that.
Good. We have somebody getting my Monty Python Life of Brian references. Bravo, Joe. Yeah, so food matches badgers' noses. Do you remember that scene where they're arguing in the between the people's Judea in front of the people's front of Judea, and there's a person wandering going, otters' noses, badgers' spleens, kind of things. That's wonderful. We've had we should probably move on to the next wine, shouldn't we? I'm going to. Oh gosh, I'm falling behind tonight. But yeah, should we have a little look at the tasting notes, just because we haven't done that for a while?
Once again, for what you would think would be simple, you know, it's got strawberry, it's just a very nice jingle wine. It's got a little bit of earthiness in the back end. It's once again, for me, it's a wine that works well for every, you know, if you need a bottle of wine for the table in the summer that's going to keep everybody happy, a bottle of Cru Beaujolais, you can't go too far wrong with it. You know, it's not too big and too spicy for people. It's not too light and too watery for people. And it's
a lot cheaper than a Burgundy these days, which is, in fact, Burgundy has become.
To be fair, so's a flat in London, but you know,
that's fair. I'm going to move it on to our next wine number 5. Just quickly, because we had a few wonderful little comments while we were doing the little history thing that I missed. Where was it? So Dan and I obviously met at the Sorted Beer launch. Yes, hi there. Yeah, we were. It's quite a story, it really is. But Kathy was saying that while we were doing that, Corinne was actually in La Consulta making the wine for Al Passion. So
wow.
That's a really fun little story. Yeah, Mark's made the point that there's definitely could be a Netflix drama. Ray, I remember a phone call to you where I'd accidentally destroyed a few bottles of your wine. Let's gloss over that one. And I think you said to me, well, there's going to be a good autobiography in this one day. And so I think that was one of the moments that I was practically in tears, and it was the exact calming things I needed to hear at that moment. But
yes,
the Wine Society tasting packs, yes, we make those for them. There are, if you haven't checked them out, go to the Wine Society and search tasting kit in their search bar.
You are serving people to the wine bar, By the way, we also have a retail site if you'd like to buy any bottles of wine before we send you to anybody else.
We're not selling tasting kits that feature like anyway. So the Wine Society's tasting packs, they've launched them in July, and it's gone crazy. They're doing incredibly well, and we're absolutely delighted for them. And it's brilliant that they're taking a bit of a gamble. I think we should make a comment that they're following the shoes of Naked Wines, who for many years were doing thousands of people at a time on wine tastings. Are you aware of anyone who did as many people on wine tastings as you did on your, was it Thursday Tuesdays or Thursday? Was it Thursday
Thursdays? Yeah.
Thursday Thursdays. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. No, I tell you, I for context, I worked at Naked Wines for 10 years, and I was the wine director there. But one of the things I loved about it, sort of changed towards the end, but was we never looked over the fence. We never looked at what the competitors like Laithwaite's or Virgin or Wine Society were doing, and it was very, very refreshing not to look over the garden fence. And then sort of management changed, and then it became more about that. But so I don't know what anyone else was doing. And it was also a time everybody was just sort of like putting wheels on the car while you were driving it during COVID. It was just very all fast moving and very exciting. And I would just sort of add to your story earlier, Alex. part of your montage, but you said you got this call, you posted it, or Jancis Robinson posted it, and then you got a call from me. But I took a few days off in October of that 2020. So we were opened up for a month or something. We were allowed to go out of the house, rented a camper van, drove to the Lake District with a friend, and just walked and walked and walked out in nature. And I remember we sort of separated. We were on Catsbells and we separated, and he had gone ahead, and we were just in our own space. And I just finally, everything had cleared out of my head, all the sort of, I don't know, the heavy stuff you're carrying. And I eventually got towards the top of Catsbells, and I went, "Oh, those guys with the tasting packs, they're doing something pretty cool." And it just came to me up there, because all the junk had sort of gone out, and then I was able to think clearly. It's like, they're great. And so I rang you from the top of Catsbells. I was like, "Hi, yeah, no," and the signal was bad, and I'm very interested in what you're doing. And I was just straight back.
You were a little out of breath as well, because you just climbed a mountain.
Yeah, exactly. And I had not been really exercising so much. But I called you, and then I made an appointment. I came over to see you guys. And what I will just say to everyone who's watching now, and disclaimer, I now work with the guys, in a contributing factor. So it's not an intentional sell, but it is just to say that where the technology and the quality was back in 2020 to where I, as in my role as wine director at Naked Wines, sort of demanded that it needs to be at, and what the guys did and how they turned and shifted and everything, to now these wines, these packs are bulletproof, and how long they last and what they stand up for, really. And that is the bit that really still I admire you both for doing it, but I'm also sort of proud to be somewhat associated with you because so that's the long story of our relationship. But you've over the years, you've turned it from a Shreddies pack into a NASA pack, and I'm really impressed. So well done, guys.
Thanks, Ray. It wouldn't have happened without your assistance as well. So no, we've been past that journey since day one. So so you can all thank Ray for his amazing input into it, like simple little things in the early days through to going through some of the maths on oxygen transfer. And so it's just another little comment from Helen that the Naked Wine Fine Wine Club tastings with Ray were fantastic. And Porto Pablo here, who is saying that you're very missed at Naked Wines.
Well, I'm at the online tasting club, EcoSip now. This is where it happens. This is where the magic is.
Fantastic. Anyway, should we talk a little bit
about the wine?
It's not all about you, Ray.
The Wine Society packs have sold out again, although Porto Pablo managed to get one. That is brilliant. And and you're amazed at the number on the sorted tastings. It's been
brilliant. But anyway,
let's move on. So where are we now? The Rhone.
We are Rhone. We're Creuse Hermitage. So the Rhone Valley is split into two main bits: the north and the south. Southern Rhone, probably most famous for Côte de Rhône and Châteauneuf de Pape, is generally based on blends, usually Grenache based, with Syrah, Mourvedre, and other bits and pieces. The Northern Rhone is much more about single varietal, where you get Hermitage making Syrah, you get Condrieu making Viognier, and then this is Creuse Hermitage, which is the largest AOC area in the Northern Rhone. 100% Syrah. We've done a Creuse before, and I said something, and then I got bullied in the chat about it, but I'm going to say exactly the same thing again. This is one of the wines. If I am ever doing a blind tasting in red wines, I would like a Creuse Hermitage put in front of me, because I think it is very, very, very well. Nothing's easy to pinpoint, but out of other things, I think it is got so many markers on it that it is quite an easy walk down to get as a blind tasting. And then I had everyone go in the chat, no, they're all so different, they're all so this. I'd love your opinion on that, Ray. Do you think Creuse has these kind of markers that is quite identifiable, or not so?
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess the subtle characteristics are cracked black pepper, and I think the group contribution in the word cloud, plum, is the people have spoken, and that I think is aggregated by the number of kind of blackberry and plum. So I think Creuse and wines in the Northern Rhone, they have this cracked black pepper, and that's a compound called rotundone, and which basically doesn't mean it just means it smells of black pepper. And some people can smell it and some people can't. It doesn't really matter. But I don't know. This was for a very long time my favorite wine region in the world, Northern Rhone, and then I moved to Beaujolais. So because I'm flipping like that, I just moved northerly. I'm just going with the climate. I'm just like trying to cool down as it chases me. But
Scandinavian wines coming soon, Ray. Then.
And that's it. There you go. English wines first, and
yeah,
too wet in Ireland. But I love it. I really love Crow's Hermitage, and I love the wines from the Northern Rhone. They're just they're generous and rounded and silky. They often have a silkiness to them, like this wine does. Yeah.
They're really smooth. It's got without doubt that kind of pepperiness, but it's not. Camera's gone. It's not a spicy pepperiness. It's there. It's round. It's integrated. It's really well put together, and I think that's important.
Lovely.
As the usual thing has happened with our camera, and the battery has either run out or it's overheated. But we're back on this camera, so we have a plan B sorted now. Somebody mentioned that in the early days of the Online Wine Tasting Club, we were certainly learning the world of live streaming, and we had a fair share of technical challenges. I think my favourite technical challenge we faced back in those early days.
You're going to say when the people put the tree through.
Yeah, we were about to go live, and the landlord had put a skip to do some gardening work right outside our facility. And the most useless gardeners in the world, threw a tree trunk just down the slope, and it rolled down the slope and landed on our telephone wire right about 10 minutes before we went live. And we had to run around and go, what do we do? There was no phone signal. We couldn't use 4G. We couldn't do anything like that. Starlink didn't exist. And so we had no backup. Eventually, we found a neighbor who lent us a cable. We ran this cable all the way around and plugged in and got live about like a quarter of an hour later or something. But yeah, the joy of learning about the difficulty of doing live things.
So I think wonderful. Can you pop up Magda's point, because I think this is really interesting. This is really interesting when it comes to wine tasting. This is of the immune to it, so you can't pick it up at all. But I think when we come to wine tasting, if I say this tastes like gooseberries and you've never had a gooseberry, or it tastes like, and you've never, or it could taste like my grandmother's jam tarts and you've never had that. It's really interesting how the language of wine tasting works. And it's also very, very personal. And it's, wine tasting and those flavors are intrinsically linked with memories of things you've had and things. And I don't think we describe anything else the way we do wine. When you have chicken, you go, this chicken tastes like chicken. But when you have this glass of red wine, you don't go, oh, it tastes like Syrah. You say it tastes like plum and blackberry and peppercorns. And I just think it's brilliant the way that we can take all these technical terms at one end and talk about the compounds that make it taste like black pepper, and then we can be at the other end and someone says mushroom and blueberry, we can all speak the same language around a glass of grape juice. Is absolutely brilliant.
It is true. It is true. And I don't smell the black pepper as much as kind of taste it. And I don't even know, because if you crunch black peppercorns, which I've done to try to sort of learn these kind of things, obviously you're feeling a bit of the spice and the heat. And so often, like a Rhone Syrah also has high alcohol, which then kind of gives you that same sort of warming feeling. So I don't know exactly which one it is, whether I'm maybe not, but sometimes I feel I get it, sometimes less so. But I've never had to do the blind tasting exam yet. So
everyone misses the songs.
Everyone misses the songs.
Should we write some more songs?
Too busy. So we haven't done a new song for tonight. We had hoped about it, but I didn't. So I will try to get on the case with them. Do you know,
Mark? I'm too busy.
One of our
I'm too busy writing a wine list for August barbecues. So that's why I've not got a song done.
So I don't know if Ray knows that we did these ridiculous songs. I think you might have become.
I think the shanties, is it? Or
we did a sea shanty for Wines of New Zealand. Yeah, we did. And that I think was our very first one. And I did that in 10 minutes before we went live, which was really stupid. But we did one called "Sweet Dreams Are Made of Cheese," a cover of Annie Lennox's, not Annie Lennox, Eurythmics. Yeah, sorry, yeah, Eurythmics' song, and it now has more than 70,000 views on YouTube, including someone who's done a reaction video to it, which apparently is how you know you've made it these days.
Which has got more views on all our online wine tasting club stuff put together. But hey, that's what you're
There
gonna.
we are. Such
Anyway,
is life.
so anyway,
Let's
so
move on.
well, we
shall
should.
we?
We didn't even
Moving
say
on
what
to
the
something.
wine was.
Oh, okay. Do you want to say
The
that?
fact that it's Gilles Robin Papillon.
This is
It's just a butterfly.
This is Gilles Robin. Yeah, he is the winemaker, and he took over the estate like not that long ago, but it is an old estate. These are quite old vines. I believe they're 35 years old. When actually they might have been 35 when he took them over, so they're probably older now.
And it's all organic, hand harvested, all those good things. But what's great about the Rhone Valley is you're able to be organic because you've got the wind that comes through, you've got not a huge amount of disease pressure.
Le Mistral.
Absolutely beautiful. So I just thought I'd pop that in there before we jump onto
actually mentioning the wine.
Wine 6, yes, and songs. We got into songs, and
this is a fair point. So we have another food recommendation: porcini mushroom risotto with truffle shavings. Yeah, I mean, what doesn't that go with? That sounds
brilliant.
Excellent. We have a question for Ray, which was, what got you first into a wine-based career?
Well, it wasn't the money.
Well, we
Do you know, they say, how do you make a small fortune in wine? And the answer is, you start with a larger fortune.
Yeah. I honestly, the guys are. It's the first time I've joined a tasting with you two guys, but we've known each other a long time. But you have a lot of my sort of anecdotes and means of expression. But Jamie, what you were saying about isn't it great just how these smells of grandmother's blackberry tart or whatever, I just couldn't. When I first did a wine course, which I was put on in Dublin, and when I was working in a restaurant, I was like, how the hell can this, like this Syrah, and it was literally Syrah, that's why it was my favorite grape for so long. How come the one from the Rhone, what we're tasting, it's the same grape, and how come it tastes as peppery? How come it tastes different from the one from Australia, which is more blackberry and juicy? And it's the same grape, and the answer is because it's grown in a different climate. And just that blew my mind. I had a simple mind at the time, but I was like, wow. And I liked booze, and I just thought, and I basically the whole Sauvignon here and then Sauvignon there, and I was like, wow. And I just sort of grew, and then had an interest, and I studied, and I did the diploma in Ireland. By the way, I hadn't really done a lot. I didn't go to university, and I was at a point in my life that I was sort of going, okay, I need to get on with something. And I found wine, did these wine courses, and then I did the diploma, the highest level in Ireland, or in wine, sorry, and in the WSET, and I moved to London because that's where I was at. London was the center of the wine world, and it pretty much still is, but New York is tipping away at it and so on. And I got a job working for Gordon Ramsay as a sommelier, and I really didn't like it, but I did realize that I need to do this because I need to taste everything. I need to taste all the wines of the world. And once I had done that stint with Gordon Ramsay, then I was like, okay, now I can do something that I enjoy a bit more. And so there was different paths. But the career was like, it was more about the interest, and how I knew it was for me was that it's geography and booze and culture. And culture, really a big thing is culture. And when I was, just for context for people, we're tasting wines, and Alex is mentioning who the winemaker is behind it, and you'll have tastings where maybe they tune in. But I remember my days when I was buying for Naked Wines, and I'd go down to France or New Zealand, North Macedonia, wherever it was, and you'd be blending during the day to make this new wine, and you're like, okay, this will be perfect for the customers. And then you always remember, I need to communicate this, because like, how are they going to know how to connect with this place like I connected? And sometimes the stuff that's coming out of people's mouth during the day, you're like, okay, so far so same as everyone else, like, yeah, we grow the grapes, we pick them, we blah blah blah. But where the gold comes out, the gold nuggets come out at like either after 10 p.m. And I'm not saying because you've had lots of wine, but just people are, in French, à l'aise, they relax. Or if you're lucky enough to stay in their house at 8 a.m. with the kids around the table, normal morning, school, all that flap. Either of those 2 points, the real identity and the culture and what this farming. It is just farming. How farming comes into their lives. Once you get that, then you can write a brilliant email to send to the customers and say, this is what it's about, you know. So I think culture really does make a big part of it, and I'm into that. I'm very lucky in Ireland with our culture. So yeah, that's it. Long answer to a very simple.
That is a great answer, and I love how many parallels there are between your route into it through the restaurant industry and Jamie's as well, and that absolute slog of being a sommelier in that fast-moving industry, the late nights, the trying to sort of clear up and close after everything, the hard life that goes with it. But yeah, I remember Jamie saying very early on, you know, what he first got about wine was when he got 2 different vintages of the same wine, and you know they were so well. I mean, you tell us.
Yeah. So, well, let's move the tasting notes on because we're on wine 6 while I'm storytelling about my life.
I just nearly downed this because I thought it was wine 5, and I realised it's not.
But yeah, so my first experience was when I first moved to the States. I knew those red wine, white wine, got stuck on the wine program, and I got to taste 2 vintages of this California Heights Martha's Vineyard 96, 97 side by side. Wow. And both wines were absolutely brilliant, but so different. It's like, how are these things, same grape, same vineyard, same place, a year different to each other, can be so different? And that's what hooks me. Was
it's not Coca-Cola.
It's not made to a recipe, and there's always something new to learn, and sometimes that's really hard to go, oh my god, because you can never complete wine. You can't go completed it. There's always something new.
But when you're at school, that's also brilliant. When you're in school, no one tells you wine can be a career. No, there's no one going out there. When you go to the careers advice agency, they go, have you considered wine? They go, would you like to be a town planner? Would you like to be a doctor? Would you like to be a lawyer? And actually, Kathy has just made this point that there are fewer wine WSET diploma holders worldwide than there are qualified actuaries, which I think is a great thing. And of course, there's probably more money in the latter than the former. But yeah, there was no one saying you could go and. I didn't even know a winemaker was a career. I didn't really understand that was a kind of thing.
I think, and this is going to be the point. Then we need to get onto wine 6. Yeah. The UK, the hospitality industry is seen as a job until you get a real job for a lot of people. When I was in the States, it could be seen as a career. And I don't think if I hadn't gone to the States, I don't think I would have got into the wine industry because it wasn't seen as a career particularly. Yeah. In the States, you go, yeah, you knuckle this down and you do it and you work it and you're there. And you know, I was in a city. But anyway, so wine number 6, and it wouldn't be our 100th tasting without me having a Riesling in there and also having something from Australia. And
so we're in Margaret River. This is Vanya Cullen, who is the daughter of the 2 founders, Kevin and Diana. She runs it now. She was twice the winemaker of the year in the Australian Women in Wines and the Halliday Wine Companion Awards. And she was awarded the Order of Australia prize for her services to viticulture and wine. So we're in good company here.
So we're in...
And Margaret River's not a horrible place.
So we're in Willie Abbott. So you're going a little bit north from the kind of Margaret River wine region. So they've got their winery in Margaret River, and then they've got some vineyards around. And Cullen it's now organic, biodynamic, all that good stuff. And for me, Margaret River is my favorite place I have ever visited in the wine world. It is picturesque. It is beautiful. The wines are great. If you have a wine, you go, that's not really my style. They'll say, well, what was it? Well, I like something a bit more oaky or less oaky, and they'll send you down the road to someone else who's making that style. It's so inclusive, so fun. I was at a winery and we've got some 88 Chardonnay for lunch, but I know you've been in Australia for a week, so if you want something French, so the hospitality was amazing. But what was really interesting when we went to Cullen, they're now certified biodynamic and certified organic. And when I was there, they were having a real battle with that because there was a brewery had applied for planning permission next door. And they were really, really worried that if this brewery got planning permission, they couldn't be certified organic and certified biodynamic anymore because the brewery would be using a commercial yeast. And you get that commercial yeast in the air, it doesn't stop at the fence line and go, oh, no, I can't go in on those grapes. So they were having a real battle to not have this brewery build next to them, which they won the battle and it wasn't built. So they could pursue being biodynamic as certified organic. So they've got, they do all the preparation 500, all that kind of stuff. And, this is called Red Moon based on harvesting on moon days. And it's an interesting blend. So when we speak Margaret River, we really think Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon are the two king grapes there. But this is more of a Bordeaux meets Rhone kind of blend. It's a little bit of everything,
isn't it?
Malbec, Grenache,
thank
Mourvedre, Petit. But I think this is what's sometimes fun about New World wine. A lot of time
it's not a GSM, it's an MGM,
but
but with a few other bits. It's the MGM Grand.
A lot of time in the old world, Bordeaux, you're stuck with these grapes. What's what you got to grow? You're in the Rhone. This is when you go somewhere else, you're allowed to play a little bit, and you can take the learnings of the old world and go, well, that's great. I want to make that style of wine, but make it my own. And we did this at the tasting last night. We did a Bordeaux blend from Croatia, and a Bordeaux blend from Argentina, so you can kind of see those learnings. But Margaret River is all about premium wine. They don't make cheap. You don't get cheap and cheerful wine out of Margaret River. It is all premium wine. And Cullen is one of my favorites. Between Cullen, Vas Felix are probably my two favorite producers in that region. I just think it's rich, it's decadent, it's beautiful, and there's something about there's tasting wine and then tasting wine in situ.
Yeah.
And sometimes you taste wine in situ and it tastes brilliant, and then you come home and it ain't so brilliant because you got caught up in the moment while you were there. This wine tastes brilliant in situ, and it tastes brilliant when you come back as well, which is the sign of an absolute showstopper.
This is a really fun blend. I love it.
I think right. I think you did a similar tour to me, didn't you? You got taken out by Wine Australia as well to do a little tour around there, didn't you? Did you do Margaret River when you got out there?
I did. I did. I won. I was lucky to win Young Wine Writer of the Year in 2007, and then Wine Australia sponsored in 2 weeks. And I went to Margaret River and I went to Cullen, and I saw them doing the biodynamic preparations. And it's a stunning part of the world. Really, really beautiful. And I concur. There's only premium wine. There's only top quality wine in Margaret River, and this is delicious. I'd never tasted it, and I'm just. Even looking at the glass, I was like, that is a flipping good glass of wine. It's really excellent. Good choice, Jamie. Yeah, very nice.
This was Jamie's choice, this one. And the tasting notes, again, lots of nice complexity. We've got the waxy nature of it. Definitely that sort of eucalyptus. Again, having the gum trees around the vineyards can really put some of that kind of eucalyptus notes into lots of essential oils into the air again. But it's interesting how many tertiary kind of flavors that we're getting coming out in what's still a 2024 wine. That's crazy. You don't normally get. I find that really fascinating. I'd almost sort of wonder if they'd put in something from a different blend, but it's a vintage wine, so it can't have had much of anything.
But what's interesting in this is, with the biodynamics, you go down to the vinification on the tech sheet. The fruits were harvested on the 12th, 13th, and 21st of February, 2 flower days and 1 fruit day. So they're really they're following that calendar. Yeah. So Lewin is brilliant. They're artists, and Lewin was the place I mentioned, the 88 Chardonnay. That they're like, oh, we got 88 Chardonnay, and if you want this, the really cool thing about Lewin is they've done a rebottling of everything. They went back into their cellars, and everything that was under cork, they opened everything, checked everything, and rebottled it under screw cap. So they've now got all their back cellars is in perfect condition.
That's
kind of cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Very good.
It's not the sort of thing you can get an automated process to do that, as we know. Right. So
very interesting. Exactly. Do we think it's time to wander into the quiz?
We should wander into a quiz, work out what people's wines of the night are, and I can't forget how to do that.
So absolutely. So
hang on. Yes, we are on that. Yeah. Yes, we're all good. Okay.
Right. So
for those who have not joined before on the quiz, again, just scan that QR code or take your phone and go to slido.com and you can join in the fun. It's a timed quiz, so the faster that you answer, assuming you're correct, the more points you will get. And that is how we differentiate it. It's all quite fun, silly questions.
And as per usual, whoever comes first can send us an email, and we will send a wine tasting to a friend or family, or if you had a horrible time, someone that you don't like, for our next tasting, which will be our Chardonnay masterclass. So we'll be doing Chardonnays from all around the world to go after the ABC crew and go, please, I promise you, if you don't drink Chardonnay,
I don't think we've done an all whites one before, apart from perhaps Riesling maybe.
Of course we have.
Of course we've done.
But yeah, to showcase that not all Chardonnays are created equal, and that will be all kind of fun. So we'll give everyone a quick 10 seconds to get in, and then we will go. It's not too serious this month.
No, not
well, it's
too
actually
serious.
it's very serious. You should know all the answers. But anyway, let's get on to question number one.
So, question number one, and these are Jamie's questions. I'd like to reiterate, which are: what is the best type of animal? Which isn't subjective. There's a definitive answer on this one. Is it a squirrel, a capybara, a badger, a sloth, or is it my chickens? It's a good question. I mean, we've certainly had a fair number of these that have stolen grapes from vineyards. So I had a squirrel stole all of my pears. I put this protective screen around it, but 96% of people have said
who put capybara? My word.
The correct answer naturally is badger. And that puts Harry narrowly in the lead. Nice one, Harry.
Wow,
but only just.
There's
I say
seconds
narrowly.
in it. Seconds in it.
Out of these English wineries, Newhall, Balfour, Osbrook, and Oxney, which was one that we visited during our very, very first show? We've been to.
Do you remember that we have been to all of them?
Yeah.
But do you remember we stuck a GoPro on your car and filmed the entire journey down?
We even had a GoPro on a camera car that was filming us driving as we went down. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, we took a proper live photographer and realized we couldn't afford to do that. So there we are. And such was the. We want to be like the wine
There's
show.
There's a bit of a mix here. So Newhall, it wasn't, but Newhall was in our advent calendar 2 years,
and in the Essex one.
Oxney, we went and visited. That's where I fall off the bench in every opening. Osbrook, love them, been a lot. But the one we went to on our first, we went to Simpsons and also Balfour.
Ferg Elias at Balfour. Yep. So yes, next question quickly. Let's razz through these. So well done, Balfour, and Lisa is in the lead. There we go. Next question. What was out of our many terrible wine music videos? So not the first song, which we said was
the sea shanty doesn't count.
The sea shanty doesn't count.
Proper music video.
What was our very first actual video where we did our best for Noi Caroline and went to the pub to make a music video instead? Was it drinking some great Rioja to the tune of Living La Vida Loca with the help of my wonderful daughter? Was it bagging boxes to baggy trousers? Or was it pruning the Shiraz to Waltzing Matilda? Or was it Sweet Dreams Are Made of Cheese? Oh, these are separating people, and the answer is it was bagging boxes to baggy trousers
with Dan Smith.
With Dan Smith helping out. Sarah is now in the lead. This is really
with the only 100%.
Goodness me! Congratulations, Sarah. So I'm known for terrible shirts, bad shirts, bright obnoxious shirts, or all of the above. Yeah, I'm going to sit this one out now because I'm normally quite restrained and whatnot. But let's have a look. Where are we? All of the above seems to be doing quite well. So yeah, I think that might be pretty good. 3, 2, 1, and
every answer was correct.
Correct. It was.
Every answer was correct. There.
So you get 100% marks, and that means that Daria is now in the lead.
High speed.
High speed there. So the next question. Ready? And where did we first actually travel abroad together to film for the Online Wine Tasting Club? Was it Piemonte? Was it Rioja? Was it the Languedoc? Was it Moselle? Or was it Napa? It's funny. I've been to one of those on my own. You've been to another one on your own.
One we've not been to.
One we've not been to. But one we went to together. For those who remember
we went
that
to
one.
together, but we didn't film.
Did we? Oh yeah, we did. Well,
we were both in Napa.
We did both go to Napa, but the answer was Piemonte. So
viral.
Oh, I don't know what happened there, but anyway, what is next month's masterclass tasting? Well, you've just told us that, so hopefully everyone gets this.
Yeah, but
not too many questions left, Ray. Don't worry. 9, 8, 7, 6. Can I just push the button? Everyone's answered.
Yeah, everyone's answered. You can click it.
Okay. Click. Right. Okay. Reveal answer. The answer is Chardonnay. Correct. Well done. Okay. Since the beginning, how many wines? Again, do you know what? I'll let you answer this quickly because we again have answered this, but it is an unfeasible number. It's quite utterly ridiculous. I genuinely, one of the most hilarious things about it was that the first significant chunk of that we put into the cartons by hand. Now, each one of those cartons, you had to tear a piece of double-sided tape off the bottom and the top and try to tuck it up and do that. And most people have gone for the correct answer.
To be fair, that was probably the first half of that number.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was only 500,000 we did without the thing, but it's probably still carried on up.
Okay,
So
Daria's still in the lead.
And corresponding to that, how many bottles of wine have we decanted by hand into our production line? Each one of them. So this is where we get really annoyed, where they come with a wax on the top. wax. Nothing wrong with a wax or wax coated wine cork, except
when you want to open 500
of them, when it becomes the biggest pain in the proverbial that you could possibly imagine. The answer is quite astonishingly 200,000 bottles of wine, and each one of those we have recycled and color separated. They used to be queued up outside our facility. It was quite ridiculous. And again, how many different wines have we featured over the whole of this last 100 tastings? I think people,
and that's including in-person events, advent calendars, and when we've got, we have this wine, but we also have something else from them. So that's total numbers of wine you've been able to buy from us.
Ooh. I don't know this one for sure.
I had to do some maths.
Reveal the answer. It is quite predictably 1,200 again. So Daria remains in the lead as we go into the last couple of questions. Now this is a tough one. Which country have we not yet featured in the Online Wine Tasting Club? Have we done a wine? We've done a wine from most of these countries, but China,
all of them,
Georgia, Thailand, Lebanon, Romania, and India. Can you guess, Ray? What have you got a sort of a subtle thought?
Thailand?
Oh, well, there's a good chance. They do make wine in Thailand, don't they?
Do.
Twice a year because the strange harvest.
So some people have put China. That we did a Chinese Riesling in the Advent calendar.
We did an Indian Cabernet Sauvignon
blend,
Merlot and Syrah blend. And the answer is Thailand. Correct. We did try, but they never answered our emails. So, and how did we make it to 100 shows? You can probably guess what the answer to this one is. Was it blind luck, stubbornness, cool pouches, great club members, solid wine info? Probably not that one, or all of the above. Hey, who knows? But the great news is this is the last question. So we're going to find out who is the winner in a couple of seconds. And there we go. The answer, you've probably ticked all of them, haven't you?
Yes.
All of the above.
All of the above. So our winner is
Daria. Congratulations. Well done.
Pop me an email. I'll get it sent. Let's get on to wines of the night.
And then we can all go and
you're gonna hide that.
Get ready. Oh yeah, I will hide this.
So before we all disappear, I want to say a massive thank you to Ray for joining us tonight. It's been brilliant. It's been insightful. You've probably got about a minute if you've got any last final questions before Ray disappears for him. But otherwise, we've done 100. It's absolute madness, and I'm not going to get all soppy and over the top, but it wouldn't be here with each and every one of you turning up each month, dealing with us in the early days when the post didn't show up or the internet went down or the pouch got damaged and things like that. You guys have been as important to this as anybody else. Oh yeah, prices.
Well, the prices we do after Wine of the Night, don't we?
Yeah.
So we'll get those up in a second.
But without,
a couple more people voting.
The fact we've showcased 1,200 wines over 5 years.
Well, it was one of the many reasons that we won a lot of these prizes in the early days was because it meant the fact that we were doing this thing so often and to so many people meant that we were actually introducing a lot of people to wines that they hadn't had a chance to try. And over the years, these are some of the awards that we've won. We are now also up for the International Wine Challenge. What are we doing this year? Is it Wine Club of the Year?
Best Wine Club. Wine Club of the Year.
So.
And I think the thing that I'm really excited about, God, we're blowing our own whistle here, but me and Alex are jointly up for the Great British Entrepreneur Awards as the Sustainability Entrepreneurs of the Year for the East of England. So that's it's nice to be recognised outside of the wine industry. It's kind of cool.
It is. It's wonderful.
Anyway, let's have a look at the Wine of the Night.
It is ludicrously tight. In fact, it's virtually a tie, isn't it?
Yes.
Between the Papillon Syrah, which is a wonderful wine, and that gorgeous Gundelach Riesling with the Torrontés just behind it. And there's a lot of the Beaujolais did well. The Beaujolais did well. Yeah. No, it's I think that's fantastic. So once again, huge thanks for your support. Huge thanks to Ray for coming in. I'll just have a quick check for any last things. Great to have Ray join. Thanks for a fab 5 years. This was a lifesaver during lockdown, continues to be so. It really means a lot to us. That
Ray, before you disappear, any final thoughts?
See you in another 100. See you for the 200.
What, not doing another one till then?
No, when I'm needed. But I think you clearly have shown that you have got this. So
brilliant. Well, let's pop the prices up.
Prices coming up, and where have they gone? There they are. So we have a nice range. I think that Red Moon was actually perhaps my favorite, though. I just didn't get very much of it because I accidentally downed it thinking it was the Crozet Hermitage. But that's a very reasonably priced Provence Rosé, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So,
but once again, dive in,
stuff.
get them, free shipping
You
over
can
60 quid.
always do. Oh, where's it gone? Where is that thing? Buy the wines. There is a QR code if you want to buy them. And
Gunderlock, that's one I'd stock up on.
yeah, I think that's excellent. And actually, we got the other good lock as well.
So we've got 3 different Gunderlocks. So we've got a Spate Laissé, we've got their Redstone, and we've got the Jean Baptiste Cabernet. So
the Redstone was sensational as well. So they are definitely worth doing. So anyway, that I believe is pretty much it from all of us. Thank you all so much. We'll see you for next month. Chardonnay next month. And cheers, Ray. Cheers, everyone at home.
Yeah.
See you all soon.
Bravo.
And roll credits. Naughty boys in wineries, crushing grapes and stirring leaves, racking barrels, pumping juice, breaking their winemaker's tools, vineyard managers in the pub, working out which buds to rub, trying not to think of when the pruning time will come again. Oh, what fun we had, but did it really turn out bad? All I learnt at school was Rieslings can taste like petrol. Oh, what fun we had, but at the time it seemed so bad. Trying Chardonnays, they're not as bad as some folks say. Jamie's had enough today, all the courts have TCA. One's a smell of wet cardboard, burgundies we can't afford. Sits alone and swirls his glass, is it hints of fresh cut grass? Alex wears a stupid shirt, best wear gloss or your eyes will hurt. Oh, what fun we had, but did it really turn out bad? All I learnt at school was Rieslings can taste like petrol. Oh, what fun we had, but at the time it seemed so bad. Trying Chardonnays, they're not as bad as some folks say. Lots of girls and lots of boys, lots of smelling Pinot Noirs. This wine was a total fail. Caroline, what's its name again? Bagging boxes, awful shirt. Why do cheap ones taste like dirt? Time for us to pack it in. Off to bed with a tonic and gin. Oh, what fun we had, but did it really turn out bad? All I learnt at school was Rieslings can taste like petrol. Oh, what fun we had, but at the time it seemed so bad. Trying Chardonnays, they're not as bad as some folks say. Bagging boxes, 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 bagging boxes.